God says, I am crying to reach you. It's an emergency. A major arrest is about to happen. You're closer to this than you think. If you ignore this message, you will miss it. Don't make the mistake of skipping. Open this immediately before 11:59 p.m., before it's too late. Chosen one. This is not just another message appearing in front of you for a few seconds, and then disappearing into the noise of your day. This is a warning from heaven. And if your spirit has been feeling restless, heavy, unsettled, or deeply burdened lately, it is because something has already started moving in the unseen realm around your life. Things are being discussed that you do not hear. Decisions are being formed that you do not yet see. There are hidden hands, hidden motives, hidden lies, and hidden pressures surrounding your name. And the reason God is crying out to reach you now is that the moment you are stepping into is too serious to treat casually. You have been chosen, set apart, marked by the hand of God for an assignment that hell has tried to delay, distort, and destroy. But listen to me carefully. What is about to happen is not being released to crush you. It is being permitted to expose what has been working against you in secret. This major arrest is not just about a person, not just about a headline, not just about a public event. It is about the arrest of deception. It is about the arrest of falsehood. It is about the arrest of every hidden scheme that thought it could wrap chains around your purpose and keep you in confusion. Chosen one, do you understand how close you are to a turning point right now? Do you feel that pressure, that shaking, that strange urgency in your chest? That is not your imagination. That is not fear taking over. That is the Spirit of God warning you that a divine reversal is at the door. The enemy thought you would stay distracted. The enemy thought you would scroll past this moment. The enemy thought you would keep doubting what God placed inside you. But heaven has interrupted your path today because your silence has lasted long enough. Your warfare has been intense enough, and your tears have been seen by the one who never sleeps and never misses a single attack launched against his chosen. God says you are not overlooked, you are not forgotten, you are not abandoned in this battle. Even now, while you are listening, heaven is moving with precision. Things are being uncovered, things are being shaken loose, things that stood in darkness are being pulled into the light. And that is why you cannot treat this message lightly. Because when the exposure begins, you must stand in faith, not panic. You must stay spiritually alert, not emotionally careless. You must pray, not drift. You must guard your heart, guard your mouth, and guard your focus. Because the next hours are not ordinary. There is a reason this reached you now. There is a reason your spirit stopped here. There is a reason you felt pulled to listen. God is making it clear that what tried to close around you will not have the final word. What tried to bury your name will not succeed. What tried to accuse you, trap you, exhaust you, and silence you is about to face the hand of divine justice. So before we go any further, I want you to make this a moment of faith and not just a moment of listening. If you believe God is speaking to you right now, comment 777 below and declare, I will not miss my moment. And if you are standing in faith for exposure, protection, and breakthrough, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who needs to hear that heaven is still moving for the chosen one. What you must understand right now is that God is not crying out because he is weak, uncertain, or late. He is crying out because his love is fierce, his warning is holy, and his mercy is reaching for you before the weight of this hour fully breaks open. There is a difference between a casual moment and a divine interruption, and this is not casual. Heaven does not press this hard without reason. God is not trying to frighten you without purpose. He is trying to wake you up, steady your spirit, and pull your attention away from every distraction that has been dulling your discernment. For too long, you have carried a heaviness you could not fully explain. You have felt pressure in places where no words were spoken. You have sensed resistance even in simple things. You have tried to move forward, yet something around your life has felt delayed, tense, and strangely burdened. That is because spiritual conflict does not always announce itself loudly at first. Sometimes it settles over a season like a shadow. Sometimes it hides behind confusion, fatigue, emotional weariness, and the feeling that something is wrong even when you cannot prove it with your eyes. But God sees what you cannot see. He knows every hidden conversation, every silent accusation, every movement made in darkness, and He also knows the breaking point where His child has carried enough. That is why His voice comes with urgency now, not because He has abandoned you, but because He refuses to. Not because you are lost, but because you are being located again by divine mercy in a critical hour. There are moments when the love of God does not sound soft at first. It sounds urgent. It sounds weighty. It sounds like a hand shaking your shoulder before danger reaches the door. That is the kind of love speaking to you now. He is calling you out of passivity. He is calling you out of numbness. He is calling you out of the quiet agreement you have made with exhaustion, disappointment, and spiritual delay. You cannot afford to sleep through this moment. You cannot afford to brush this off as emotion or coincidence. What is approaching carries consequences, and that is exactly why heaven is reaching for you with such intensity. God wants your attention because He wants your obedience. He wants your obedience because He wants your protection. He wants your protection because there is still a purpose over your life that cannot be cancelled by hidden opposition. So do not mistake this urgency for rejection. It is proof of value. Do not mistake this intensity for punishment. It is proof that heaven is intervening before the enemy can complete what he intended. The tears of God in this hour are not announcing your defeat. They are announcing that you matter too much to be left unwarned, too loved to be left uncovered, and too marked by destiny to be abandoned in the middle of a spiritual storm. If this is speaking directly to your spirit, then stay with this message until the end, and tell me in the comments, do you believe God is pulling you into a turning point right now? Things are happening around your life that have not been announced to you, and that is exactly why this hour feels so heavy. You have felt it in your spirit before you could explain it with your mind. You have walked into rooms and felt resistance without a single word being spoken. You have laid down at night with a pressure on your chest that made no sense. You have tried to stay calm, tried to stay faithful, tried to tell yourself that maybe you were overthinking, maybe you were just tired, maybe it was only stress, but deep down you knew something was moving in the dark. God is showing you now that your discernment was not broken. Your spirit was picking up what your eyes had not yet seen. There have been hidden conversations, silent decisions, private judgments, and secret movements surrounding your name. And the pain of this season has not been random. It has been the ache of a soul brushing up against unseen warfare. It has been the grief of carrying weight that did not start with you. It has been the trembling that comes when heaven is about to expose what hell tried to bury under silence. And this is why you cannot dismiss what you have been feeling. This is why you cannot keep talking yourself out of what God has been trying to show you. Even C.S. Lewis, in The Problem of Pain, wrote that God shouts in our pains, a reminder that pain can become the place where heaven forces us to pay attention. What if the pressure you have felt was not proof that God left you, but proof that He was refusing to let you sleep through a critical moment? What if the tears, the confusion, the loneliness, and the strange sorrow were not signs of abandonment, but signs that your life had entered a zone where truth was preparing to rise? You have not been imagining this battle. You have been standing in the middle of something deeper than people around you understand. There were moments, but hear this clearly now. Your pain has not been wasted, and your silence has not gone unheard. God has been watching every hidden wound, every swallowed tear, every moment you felt misread, misjudged, and pushed to the edge. And now the same God who watched in silence is beginning to answer with movement. What was whispered behind closed doors will not stay hidden forever. What was arranged in darkness will not remain untouched. The burden has been real, but so is the God who is stepping into it. Tell me in the comments, have you been feeling this unexplainable heaviness too, as if something bigger than you has been shifting around your life? The major arrest God is warning you about is not what most people would think. This is deeper than a headline, deeper than handcuffs, deeper than a public scene. This is the arrest of lies that have moved around your life for too long without being challenged. This is the arrest of deception that tried to wear the face of truth. This is the arrest of hidden manipulation, false narratives, quiet sabotage, and every scheme that believed it could build a cage around your calling and never be confronted. Heaven is making it plain in this hour. What has been working in secret is about to lose its freedom. What has been feeding on confusion is about to be stopped. What has been circling your purpose like a predator is about to be restrained by the hand of God. You need to hear this with spiritual ears, because if you misunderstand this moment, you may panic when you should be standing firm in faith. The warning is serious, but the warning is not against you. The shaking is real, but it is not being sent to destroy you. It is being allowed to expose what has tried to hide in darkness while feeding off your exhaustion, your delay, and your silence. Some forces thought they could keep accusing you without consequence. Some voices thought they could keep rewriting your story behind closed doors. There are hidden pressures that thought they could keep tightening around your future until you forgot who called you. But God says enough. Enough of the distortion. Enough of the intimidation. Enough of the invisible warfare trying to pass itself off as ordinary life. This is the hour where heaven begins to interrupt what hell thought it had secured. The enemy wanted you bound, but now the chains are turning on the one who forged them. The enemy wanted your name buried under confusion, but now the truth is rising with force. The enemy wanted you to think the weight on your life meant you were losing, when in reality it meant a confrontation was coming. That is why you have to stay alert. Do not agree with fear. Do not join hands with panic. Do not let your emotions speak louder than the word God is releasing over you now. Pray with clarity. Watch with sobriety. Guard your mouth. Refuse to echo defeat. The major arrest is not the end of your story. It is the moment the hidden attack begins to lose power. It is the moment the machinery of deception starts breaking down. It is the moment what was sent to paralyze you begins to be paralyzed itself. And when this divine exposure unfolds, you will understand that God was not warning you to make you afraid. He was warning you because he was preparing you to stand still and watch him bring down what has been resisting your destiny. Archangel Michael is not standing at a distance while this battle closes in around you. He has been assigned to this hour with precision. And what you have felt as pressure in the spirit is not only the presence of attack, but also the nearness of heavenly response. There are seasons when God comforts gently, and there are seasons when he sends a warrior. This is that kind of hour. Michael comes where resistance has grown stubborn, where hidden darkness has stretched too far, where the enemy has mistaken God's patience for permission. He comes with the authority of heaven, not to entertain fear, but to cut through it. He comes with fire against confusion, with strength against intimidation, with movement against the invisible net that has tried to tighten around your purpose. You may not see his sword with your natural eyes, but you are about to see what that sword does. It severs what has wrapped itself around your mind. It breaks what has fed on delay. It cuts through the cords of accusation, sabotage, and silent oppression that thought they could remain attached to your future. This is why you have survived moments that should have crushed you. This is why you are still standing after nights that drained you, after disappointments that almost emptied your faith, after battles you never even had language for. You were not standing alone. You were being guarded in ways you could not measure. And now that protection is no longer hidden, it is stepping into action. C.S. Lewis once wrote in the Screwtape Letters that courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. That matters here, because this is your testing point. This is not the hour to shrink back into fear, self-pity, or spiritual passivity. This is the hour to let faith take the form of courage, not noisy courage, not fleshly confidence, holy courage, steady courage, the kind that keeps praying when the atmosphere feels heavy, the kind that keeps standing when lies are loud, the kind that refuses to surrender identity just because warfare has become intense. Michael's presence in this message is a sign that heaven is not treating your situation as small. You are not dealing with a minor disturbance. You are dealing with a conflict over calling, over direction, over what your life is meant to carry in the earth. That is why the battle has felt personal. That is why the pressure has felt targeted. But hear me clearly. The greater the assignment, the more violently hell tries to interrupt it before it fully emerges. Yet interruption is not victory. Attack is not ownership. Resistance is not the final word. Heaven is stepping in, and what has tried to stand over your path is about to be forced back. The fear that hovered near your thoughts will not rule you. The lies that circled your name will not keep breathing. The trap, laid in secret, will not close the way the enemy planned. So, answer this in the comments with bold faith. Do you believe heaven is fighting for your name right now? If you do, declare, Michael is clearing my path. And stay with this message, because what comes next is where the reversal begins to break open. What they meant to use against you is about to become the very thing God uses to reveal you. You have spent too long thinking of yourself through the lens of survival, through the lens of pressure, through the lens of what has been done to you, said about you, delayed around you, and resisted in secret. But heaven is correcting that vision now. You are not standing at the center of this story as a victim waiting to be rescued from a random storm. You are standing in this hour as living proof that God can preserve what hell tried to break, protect what darkness tried to mark, and lift what opposition tried to bury. The attack was real, but it was never the highest truth about you. The pain was real, but it was never your identity. The confusion was real, but it was never your final condition. God says the enemy studied your weariness and assumed you were finished. He watched your silence and misread it as surrender. He saw your tears and mistook them for weakness. But what he did not understand was that God had hidden strength inside your breaking, endurance inside your waiting, and fire inside the place where you felt most emptied out. That is why you are still here. That is why you did not collapse when the pressure increased. That is why your spirit kept reaching for God even when your mind had no language left. You were never just surviving. You were being preserved for revelation. You were being kept for the moment when what tried to reduce you would instead expose the hand of God over your life. And this is the shift you must receive now. Stop seeing yourself only as the one who was wounded, and begin seeing yourself as the one heaven decided to keep. Stop rehearsing the narrative of what almost destroyed you, and begin agreeing with the truth that none of it was allowed to have the final word. You are not the ashes of a lost season. You are the evidence that God was present in the fire. You are not a discarded name buried under misunderstanding. You are a marked life carrying a testimony that could only have survived by divine protection. The same pressure that tried to make you doubt your calling is about to confirm it. The same resistance that tried to make you question your worth is about to reveal how dangerous your purpose really is to the kingdom of darkness. This is why you cannot shrink now. This is why you cannot return to hiding now. This is why you cannot keep speaking about yourself as if your life is defined by attack. No. Your life is defined by preservation, by calling, by divine covering, and by a God who kept you standing until the hour of exposure and reversal arrived. So lift your head, guard your spirit, refuse false labels. You are not what happened to you. You are who God kept through it, and what comes next will make that impossible to deny. There were nights when you carried the weight of this battle in complete silence, and no one around you truly knew how heavy it had become. You smiled when you had to. You answered people when you had to. You kept moving through responsibilities, conversations, routines, and expectations. But beneath all of it, there was an ache you could not fully put into words. It was not only exhaustion. It was not only disappointment. It was the pain of feeling something shift around your life while having no clear explanation to hand to anyone else. It was the loneliness of being under pressure that looked invisible from the outside. It was the weariness of trying to stay strong while questions kept rising in the dark. Why has this been so hard? Why has there been so much resistance? Why does it feel like something has been pressing against my peace at every turn? And the hardest part was that even when you prayed, there were moments when heaven seemed quiet. You called on God, yet the room still felt still. You asked for clarity, yet the fog did not lift immediately. You asked for relief, yet the burden seemed to remain. That kind of silence can test the deepest parts of a person. It can make you wonder whether you were forgotten, whether your tears mattered, whether your pain had become just another hidden thing no one would ever fully see. But God says none of it was hidden from him. Not one trembling prayer. Not one sleepless night. Not one moment when you felt yourself breaking internally while trying to remain composed externally. He saw every time your voice shook. He saw every time you swallowed words because you were too tired to explain what your soul was carrying. He saw every time you sat with the weight of misunderstanding, every time you questioned yourself because the battle had gone on longer than you expected. And he is saying to you now that the weight was real, the grief was real, the fatigue was real, the sense of isolation was real. You were not weak for feeling it. You were not failing because it hurt. You were not faithless because you got tired. You were a human soul standing inside a spiritual storm, and the storm was not imaginary. But neither was the hand that kept you. Neither was the mercy that covered you when you could not feel it. Neither was the strength that carried you one more day when your emotions had already run out. This is why you must stop judging yourself so harshly for what this season took out of you. Stop condemning yourself for the tears. Stop despising yourself for the weariness. Stop acting as though your pain means you lost. The fact that you are still here, still listening, still reaching, still breathing with even a fragment of faith left in your chest means heaven sustained you through more than you can fully measure right now. And that matters. Because what God sustains, he does not sustain in vain. What he preserves, he intends to use. What he carries toward purpose. So let this truth settle deeply into your spirit. The weight was real, but it did not have permission to erase who you are. The silence was painful, but it did not mean abandonment. The pressure was severe, but it was never the final voice over your life. You have been more seen than you realized, more covered than you knew, and closer to a breakthrough than you could tell while the burden was still sitting on your shoulders. What has been hidden is about to lose the protection of darkness. The trap is turning, and the same atmosphere that once felt heavy with resistance is beginning to shift under the weight of divine exposure. For a long time, lies have moved quietly around your life, feeding on secrecy, confusion, and delay. That is how darkness prefers to work. It does not always arrive with obvious noise. Sometimes it settles into the background, distorts what people see, twists what people assume, and builds false narratives slowly until the target begins to feel buried under something they never created. But God is saying that season is breaking. What has been whispered is about to be brought into the light. What has been arranged behind doors is about to lose its cover. What has been feeding off misdirection will not be able to keep breathing once truth enters the room with authority. This is why the pressure has been increasing. This is why your spirit has been unsettled. Exposure does not arrive gently for what has been hiding in darkness. When truth comes, it does not negotiate with deception. It confronts it. It strips it. It forces it into the open. And that is what is beginning now around your life. The people, the systems, the words, the hidden motives, the carefully managed impressions, the subtle manipulations that thought they could continue unchallenged, are about to run into a line they cannot cross. Heaven has marked this hour for revelation. The net that was thrown in secret is beginning to tighten in the wrong direction. The snare designed for you is beginning to catch the hands that set it. The accusations meant to weaken your standing are beginning to collapse under the weight of what is true. And when this turning becomes visible, you must not be shocked that everything suddenly looks unstable. Exposure